Okay, welcome everyone. We are very pleased to welcome Luis Mota for this session. Luis is a predoctoral research fellow in economics at the Global Priorities Institute. Originally, he's from Brazil. Luis received his undergraduate degree in economics from the University of Sao Paulo before joining the Global Priorities Institute. His research focuses on a range of topics, including changes in moral values, population growth, and donor coordination mechanisms. So thank you for joining us, Luis, to EAGx, and let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Thanks, Angela. Hi, everyone. So, I'm Luis. I'm excited to give you an intro talk to Global Priorities Research today. Before I start, just a few remarks. First is that you can find these slides following this URL, and this is useful because I'm using some links and that you might want to check out. The second is that I'm speaking here on my personal capacity, so the views that I express here aren't necessarily those of GPI or Oxford University. And the third is that I noticed when I was practicing that, I guess maybe due to the altitude, I'm feeling like catching breath more frequently than I usually do, so that might slow the talk down a bit. But let's get started. So first, why prioritize? I'm sure some of you have seen this figure before, and it basically gives us the distribution of cost effectiveness of various health interventions. So here on the y-axis, on the x-axis, we have the effectiveness of the interventions, and each of these is one intervention. So what we see in this figure is that if we're comparing an average intervention with the very best ones, the difference in effectiveness can be of orders of magnitude. And even when we're comparing, say, the third best intervention with the very best one, the difference can still be 2x. And so there is a lot of value in this context for trying to find the very best interventions. And there are reasons to believe that this generalizes to other contexts. And when we are able to estimate differences in cost effectiveness in other interventions, we also find similar results. So I want to talk a bit about what is global priorities research. And to do so, I'll base myself off of a definition of effective altruism. This is by Will McCaskill. It says that effective altruism is the use of evidence and careful reasoning to work out how to maximize the good with a given unit of resources, and the use of the findings from one to try to improve the world. So global priorities research is essentially about doing step one, trying to use evidence and reasoning to figure out how we should actually go about using these resources. One distinction that's worth making is that between global priority setting and global prioritization. So setting global priorities can be thought of trying to figure out what the world should be focusing on. So taking the perspective of maybe humanity as a collective, what should we think our priorities are, how we should ideally allocate resources. And global prioritization, which is what's relevant for us here, is kind of like a global optimization problem. And it's trying to figure out how to do the most good across all of the options that we have, acting as small agents trying to make the most good we can. And in particular, this implies not being restricted by an intervention. So for example, not trying to find the best ways to do cancer research, and not being restricted to a specific beneficiary. So not trying to do the most good from my country. A figure that helps illustrate this difference is this one. So here on this left panel, we have what would be global priority setting. So thinking about how much the world should spend in different areas. These dotted lines can indicate roughly the current expenditure in these areas. So you can think that maybe the world should spend twice as much on climate change as it currently does. maybe a bit less on the movie industry so that we can have more resources to spend on other areas, and maybe like substantially more in reducing the risks from engineered pandemics, but still much less than climate change, perhaps. And this figure here on the right shows how valuable marginal spending in these areas are. So even though we would ideally want to spend a lot of money on climate change, given that, as a proportion of the total expenditure we would aim to do, we're already spending a fair bit of money. It's more valuable to spend more on climate change than on movie industry, but it might be substantially more valuable for us to spend resources on reducing the risks from engineered pandemics. Some questions. So just to give you a sense for what global priorities research questions can be, I'll illustrate with some examples. So for example, one question is, will the extinction risk be lower in the future? One important, this consideration is important, and EAs often discuss this in the context of the hinge of history hypothesis, or the most important century discussion, which centers around this notion that risk will be high for the next century or the next few centuries, but then we might be able to bring risk down and keep it down for a very long time, so that we will be able to secure the existence of humanity for a very long time. And then one research question is trying to figure out considerations involved in this. What needs to happen for risk to remain down in the long run? Should we expect that future technological development will be such that this risk will remain high for a very long time? And if that's the case, then the value of reducing extinction risk is lower. Another question is, if we survive, will the future be good? Do you have reasons to expect that humanity will create like a flourishing future civilization? Or is there a possibility that the future might be bad? How do they like relate to each other, and so on? And these are also this is also important when we're thinking about the value of extinction risk reduction. Another question is, how valuable is movement building? How should we think about trading off increasing the size of the EA movement versus spending money directly on like causes that we care about, or for example, saving money to invest in the future when there might be better opportunities than now? Is it better to have more people? Should we aim to have a flourishing galaxy-wide civilization? Or is it okay to like just create a utopia here on Earth, maybe with a population size similar to the one that we have now? When and how to invest money. So given that we want to do the most good, how much spending should we be doing now versus later? What are the considerations involved here? And given that the way we invest may affect the world in ways that we care about, how should we go about investing that money? So talking a bit about GPI, I'll give like a brief intro to the Institute, and then I'll talk about a few projects that are being developed there. So the Global Priority Institute aims to conduct foundational research on how to most effectively do good. So this is basically doing academic research that tries to like answer some of the types of questions that I've mentioned in the previous slide. And besides aiming for impact through our research directly, we're also aiming to influence other academics to think more in this direction, try to think about the considerations that like how their research can impact the world, and make them try to tackle questions that are bigger and more impactful. GPI only works with a subset of global priorities research, and in particular, we're focused on academic research. This is like our route to try to develop research. We're focused on economics and philosophy for now, but we're also expanding into psychology, and we're planning to, like in the future, also expand to other areas. And for now, we're mostly focused on long-termism. So here are two pieces of work in progress. The first one is this project by Jacob Barrett and Lauren Ferxel on neglectedness and social change. And most of you, I suppose most of you have heard about the ITAN framework, which is important, tractability, and neglectedness. And this is a framework that EAs often use to prioritize between different cause areas, like try to assess how valuable work on different areas is. In particular, this framework makes use of neglectedness, and the idea is something like, if you're working on an area, if you're the first person thinking about global priorities research, you might think about many questions that are important and like start to make progress on them. But if like there is 1,000 people working on the problem, then the ideas that you get won't be as good as the ones you would if you were the first person there. And this kind of dynamic happens in lots of different situations. So we say that neglectedness is based on this decreasing marginal returns assumption. However, this heuristic isn't always a good guide to decision making. So if we're thinking about, for example, political change, then there are certain thresholds where impact actually happens. So if we're trying to make a change in the legislation, then we would want to get enough support for that legislation to pass. And if we don't get there, then we don't get any of the impact. But if we're like close, then and we're like a bit uncertain about like how much support we actually need, then getting more support is really, really valuable. This is also true for example, corporate campaigns, like trying to improve animal welfare standards. If only like a few small companies have made pledges, then it's like not as attractive for other companies to join. But as the number of companies grow, then this incentivizes them to further take these pledges, and change can take place. So the central idea here is that thresholds for impact may generate these increasing returns in some contexts over like some ranges of resources. And the idea of this project is to improve our understanding of the neglectedness heuristic, and create alternative ways of thinking and heuristics for when these thresholds are present. So one of the still like tentative results from this project is what they call the roughly or prior heuristic, which would say that given some assumptions about like the distribution and so on, if you expect there to be like a single threshold distributed, say normally, then your impact is increasing up to where you expect the threshold to be, and then it starts to decrease. So this project then aims to like help us to refine our understanding of this heuristic. Our second project is a project that a researcher, Benjamin Tarek at GPI, is collaborating with Philip Tatlock and other people working on forecasting, called Conditional Forecast Trees. This project tries to think about this question. So how should we make long-run forecasts, given that there's some delay between the time we make the forecast and the time where the question resolves? So for example, what will be the worldwide temperature change in 2070? It's very difficult to like try to assess accuracy on forecasts with a time horizon of decades, because we would have to like have a lot of time to have these things happen and see how calibrated people are, etc. So the idea of the project is to first do a 2-step forecasting procedure, which consists of first experts identifying what they call precursor events, so things, factors that would be relevant for changes in the worldwide temperature in 2070. So say the development of clean technology and adoption of this technology or other environmental factors that might affect temperature changes, and then using forecasters to predict these specific precursor events. The project then develops a model that can be used to decompose how informative these precursor events are. And so this can be used to, like, as we go, like, both make a better assessment for what the temperature change will be, but also over time see like which of these pathways that experts have indicated will seem more plausible for like affecting the variable that we care about. This model is tested on for AI risk prediction, so they actually try to do this exercise in practice to see how it performs. So I'll give here a list of organizations that are doing work in GPR. I won't say them all, but here are not all of the work that these organizations do is in global priorities research, but they do some research, at least some research in this area. And you can check their websites out to see like some more material, like academic and non-academic, on these areas. And lastly, I wanted to say a bit about what you can do if you're interested in global priorities research. I guess the first thing is learning more about global priorities research. So there are a bunch of research available for you to read in the websites of these organizations. I guess the Effective Altruism Forum is another very good resource. You can try exploring doing your own research, so thinking about which questions you think are most relevant. Where do you think the key considerations lie? Reading about it and like trying to think and develop your own models for things. Sharing your research with others, etc. Collaborating with these organizations, so reaching out to researchers doing relevant work, asking them about what they're doing, including during this conference. You can also apply for research positions in these organizations. In fact, if you're a student, then I wanted to highlight Effective Thesis. They're an organization that provides guidance to students in trying to find impactful topics. And they also have a thesis prize, both for undergraduates, masters, and PhD students. And lastly, a few opportunities at GPI. So we have positions, both full-time and part-time positions, for postdoc and senior research fellow. These are post-PhD positions in economics and philosophy. They're like full-time positions. Pre-doc positions, so I'm doing a pre-doc in economics. We only have this position for economics, and RA positions for people in various fields that intersect with areas that we need to learn more about to do our research. There's also the Oxford Global Priorities Fellowship. This is an opportunity for people who are doing grad school in economics and philosophy. This program has deadline. The deadline for applying for this year is the 15th of January. So if you're interested, please check it out. But it involves like roughly going to Oxford for a month and developing a research project in global priorities there. We have some workshops, and here I wanted to highlight in particular the Open Student Workshop, which is a workshop for traditionally underprivileged groups, including people from the Global South. So I do recommend people, if you're interested in global priorities research, to go to the website and check out and see if you're interested. And yeah, there are many other opportunities. If you wanna know about our work, sign up to our newsletter and we'll keep you updated on what's up with that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have like 10 minutes for questions, maybe a bit less because we have to go out earlier. But yeah, does anyone want to say any questions for Luis?
Like you mentioned, one of like the research areas is like, like evaluating like what is more, like better like to either like, I don't know, build community and like involve people in EA or like spend like money directly on like different causes. Like, do you like know about like any results of like this research? Like,
I don't know if like nothing comes to mind right now. There is some research by Philip Tremmel on like the optimal growth rate of movements. I think it's like only considering if we're trying to like, I might be saying something wrong here, but like if we're like trying to, if we have money and people can work like to get more money or do movement building, how should people split their time like across different points in time and like getting money and like doing community building so as to like get to the optimal path for growing these resources. I think this is a topic that people haven't explored, at least on the GPR research space that I know people haven't explored too much, but yeah.
Thank you. You mentioned that the conditional forecast series was tested for high risk predictions. Where can I read more about that?
Sorry?
You mentioned that the conditional forecast series module was tested for high risk predictions. Where can I read more about that and if you have any results for that?
About this project?
Yes, that is tested for high risk predictions the last.
So this is still a work in progress. I don't think they have a draft available just yet. I don't think this is available yet, but I hope that maybe in a few months they will have something that's publicly shareable. We have a working paper series in our website. In general, if you want to like learn more about GPI's research, we have like both the papers and some paper summaries on our website. There is a lot of stuff that I left out here. I just mentioned 2 pieces of work. But you can check the website out, and I hope that soon there might be it.
Sorry, I'm very new to this topic, so maybe what I'm asking is totally obvious, but it's not clear for me when you compare, for example, you have these bars with climate change, BVs, and like, I forgot the other thing, but how do you define value? So to make this comparison in the second chart, so you say that some interventions some areas of research are more valuable, but how do you define value?
You have to define value. Here, I'm not defining value in any way. I'm not like saying that this is the result of like, it's worth clarifying this. I don't like, this shouldn't be taken as the result of like some research. It's just an example to illustrate and like trying to like see what is value and like trying to figure out how we should go about doing that as part of global priorities research too.
I think we run out of time for more questions. We have 2 minutes. If you could make like super.
Sure. I'm wondering how you think about strategy once you've identified priorities. Like in this graph, for example, I'm thinking, okay, maybe reduced risk from engineered pandemics is super high marginal spending, but maybe strategically, like given the reach that a movie has, creating a movie about this would be like really high leverage. Like that's not necessarily the thing, but how do you think about like high leverage ways once you have your priorities?
Yeah, I think I guess my first thought, like on the movie thing, I would think that doing a movie on this topic can be considered trying to actually implement that. So in that sense, it's about how to most effectively go about promoting a certain cause. I don't know if I have I think maybe the question is a bit too general. I don't know if I have anything more concrete to say. But yeah.
Okay, thank you, Luis. So let's give Luis a round of applause.
Thanks.